Recording. 3, 2, 1, go. Wait, where did Charma go?
Sharma left like a while ago. She said she's not.
She said she had to go.
Oh yeah, she did. All right.
And then she said she was going. In
Yeah.
that order.
More peace, love, and happiness. Welcome to
Morning.
BTA podcast.
I am
episode
hoping you're having a
15.
good morning at this night.
It's true. But
Yeah.
yeah, I am Ali, joined by Lachlan,
Hello.
Kelly.
Hello.
Just wait for it.
She'll show up eventually.
Meet.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if Dylan gonna show up. He was here like a second ago. So first and foremost, how y'all doing?
No. That's how I'm doing.
Okay, but like your man, I'm on the KMB, bro.
Can be still at 6. Honestly. In spite of it all, it's still at 6.
I'm feeling a 6-2.
You know what? I'm a 6'2".
Nice.
Well, I'm actually 6'4", but
The legendary 666 episode.
haha. Illuminati confirmed.
Nice. Okay. Lachlan, you wanted to kick things off.
I did because we have another segment of This Week in Barbados.
Nice.
Oh,
For
wait.
all of the for all of the people who want to hear public events but don't want to hear Trinity news all the time, we have to talk about it.
We have a very
Statue.
strong like Asian demographic. Like I love it.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Huh?
It's you.
Huh.
You're the Asian demographic.
Oh, I mean, me and
And you're
Latoya.
very strong.
You simply just produce the content for yourself to re-listen to at a later date.
That's fair, to be quite honest. But anyway, so yeah, basically, a basic rundown of the situation is
Oh wait, I forgot
that,
the struggle tweet.
you know, oh yeah, we did, yeah.
This episode brought to you by the
Run
Power
that back.
Struggle tweet. Meet, go ahead.
Dude, we mean go ahead. I can't read it right now.
It's okay, I'll read it for him. I can't
Okay.
do the emojis though. Nom, you just got vored. Send this to 10 other kinky vor lovers to guarantee another sexy voring. Merry voring.
Thank you, Lachlan.
What?
That was your tweet.
Yeah, it was
Oh
your
wait, no,
struggle
you're
tweet.
just. That was your message, man. I mean, I
What
don't
do you
tell
mean that? Oh, yes. I posted that in front of it. Listen,
They got you in 4K, bro. They got you in 4K.
I absolutely deny all involvement in the situation. It
We
was
have
doctored.
photo evidence.
It
Okay,
was
bro.
doctored. Crooked Democrat.
Alright, but yeah,
All
Lachlan,
right.
please continue with
Right.
Vision News.
So yes, basic rundown. We all know what year it is, 2020, and one of the biggest things, of course, that came out this year was, of course, like the Black Lives Matter movement and like all that good stuff. And a big part of the discussion there was in terms of like Confederate statues in America and like how America had a lot of those. And of course, as you would expect, that kind of dripped down into Barbados. And one of the biggest like issues that kind of got brought up here was that there's a statue in our Heroes Square, which is a monument that's basically dedicated towards our national heroes. There's a statue within it of a man named Lord Horatio Nelson, who was not a good person. Like, that's just it. He was friends with not good people. I mainly know him as being like associated with slave traders and whatnot, and for endorsing the slave trade, which of course is not fun. It's not fun for anyone involved. Absolutely not. I'm sorry, ancestors. I'm not doing you justice. But anyway. But yeah, so he was just a shit person. I'm pretty sure, from what I heard, he didn't even like come to Barbados that often or something. But for some reason, like we have a statue for him because the British dedicated a statue to him when he won some battle back in the day. And then yeah, for like a long time, like there's been a few people that have been trying to take it down since the 90s. And then of course this year in particular, since all the talk of Black Lives Matter and like taking down monuments has like come up, there's been a lot of discussion now moving towards taking the statue down finally. And there's been a lot of back and forth since like summer, of course, when like all this started. And finally, they did make the announcement that they were going to take it down. It got taken down the 16th. What day is today? It got
It's like
taken down.
21st, I think.
Yeah, today's the
Yeah,
21st.
so it would have been taken down like Monday. Is that math right? Today's Saturday, so yeah, it would have been taken down on Monday. It was like a big celebration thing. And the main thing that got me to want to talk about it is just like all of the reactions to it, because like most of it's been pretty positive. Like a lot of people have been indifferent, but like as you expect, there have been certain people who are not okay with it.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, like between this and like the other big thing that's been happening in Barbados recently is like the gay marriage. Is like I think I mentioned before how like we legalize, like we're moving towards legalization of same-sex
Yep.
marriage, and there have been a lot of protests, of course, by like religious groups because of that. And like for whatever reason, for both that and for taking on the statue, people are like, "Oh yeah, Barbados is going to fall into turmoil because you made this small decision." And there was this guy who was just like, "Oh yeah, God's going to have like his wrath on us because we took down this statue." And I'm just like, "Why? Like, what is your reasoning here?" But like, of course, a certain demographic of people, and by that I mean a certain demographic of lighter skinned people, um, are very upset, I guess, about the statue being taken down. There were like a lot of like Facebook comments by just like white people kind of just like consolidating each other and basically talking about how like awful it was that this statue was taken down. And what annoys me the most about it is that I feel like the big response. I'm gonna send one now actually.
Oh boy.
This isn't. Oh wait, no, that's the
Nine
wrong one. Damn.
40.
But yeah, there
That's
was
a
another.
big
There
wall
was
of
like
text.
yeah, there was a much more concise one, but I couldn't find it in time for the podcast. But it
Yeah,
was
I
yeah,
just looked at it.
yeah, yeah. But
Good
basically,
news, report.
like there was this woman who was literally just like, "Oh yeah, like, you guys are complaining," and then she brought the whole thing of how like, "Oh, you know how like you guys weren't as educated like before slavery, so like you guys get to be educated now because your ancestors were slaves," and I'm just like, that's not. Yeah,
That's
that's
the
never the
most
argument.
What the fuck?
insane angle that they could have taken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And it's like like there's so many people that are like so upset that this thing got taken down. And literally like the only argument I've really heard for it is that like these people grew up around it and like it watched them growing up and it's been there for a long time. And because it's been there for a long time, it's historic, and because it's historic, it should not be taken down, which is absolute bullshit. Like to
Guys, I know
me,
slavery is pretty cringe, but it's been here for a while, so we should
yeah, I
really,
mean it's like
it's
we
kind
might
of
as
a
well just like leave
historic
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Might as well just leave it there.
Yeah, it's like not everything that's been there for ages should like remain forever, like the U.S. Constitution. But like, I
In fact, many
digress.
things that have been there for ages should probably be taken away
Yes,
for the
exactly.
exact reason of them being there for ages
Yeah.
Yeah,
and not no longer fitting the needs of the current day.
but like, there's so many people who like have such like shit opinions, and like, you guys sadly can't read the thing that I sent you because I'm assuming the text will be too small to be like capturing. Where the fuck are my screenshots? But like,
Comes through with the beefiest one.
yeah, I have like, okay, I have like another one here, but like, oh wait, no, this one's also hyper zoomed in, so you can't really see it. Damn.
How do you
What
not
are you
manage to
I
screenshot
mean,
this whole poster?
taking these screenshots with your eyes
no, it's a
closed?
screenshot of a screenshot, but like I don't have the original post, and I would have to go looking for it.
How do you like fit all that
Um,
in like one thing?
I don't know, man. It was just an image, but yeah, but like,
Oh, it's just an image.
yeah, yeah,
True.
but like, I'll just read out this comment that I had referenced before. It was like someone had said to her, "If you have yet to understand why he was removed or the role he actually played, not the fallacy we were told, it is because you don't want to know. You're content remaining in your ignorance and privilege, which allows you to ignore the negative impact Nelson had on Afro-Barbadian population." To which a woman responds, a white woman, of course, responds, "I sincerely hope that now that Nelson has been moved, you have been healed, in quotation marks, of your anger, hatred, and racism, and can now show some tolerance towards others.
What the
You are
fuck?
not the..." Yeah. It goes on to say, "You are not the only Bayesian, and neither are you the only one with slave ancestors. Maybe maybe you would not be here now and the educated person you are now without Nelson and slavery. Ever thought of that?
God.
Guys, slavery wasn't created. Without us enslaving you, you wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. And like I hate that especially because it also like leads into like that whole deeper issue of like the fact that like African societies were like, viewed as being like savages just because they weren't civilized in the same way that like European societies were.
Yeah.
But like we're not getting into that. The point is we took down the statue and for some strange reason so many white people are so pressed and we're like so emotional about it for no good reason. And it's just so strange to me. Because in the end of the day, it's literally just a statue that stood for a man who did shit things, and the shit things he did were to perpetuate an oppressive system which turned human beings into commodities to be sold and mistreated for generations. You know? And it's like, yeah. It's like people like to say that like racism doesn't exist in the Caribbean, doesn't exist in Barbados, but like obviously these kinds of things show it. It's more so I think
Yeah.
just that because we're so segregated, like we don't see it. But an event like this, of course, comes out and you see all like the people like this come out of the woodwork, and it really, it really makes you think.
Need to
But
put on the
yeah,
thinking cap.
exactly. But yeah, that's like the basic facts. What are you guys' thoughts about it? How are we feeling about this?
Me too.
What's
I
the
feel like
vibe,
I was
fellas?
giving my commentary as we went. I feel like I've
Yeah.
expressed everything that I really want to say.
Uh,
Like,
yeah, you go ahead,
God,
Pete. Yeah, you go ahead.
I've never heard anybody give anything close to a satisfactory explanation for why they think we should leave up a statue of somebody who was just like a demonstrably horrific person in their
Yes,
time
exactly.
and had the statue built of them because they had power and authority in their time and thus were able to have a statue made of them. Like
Yes.
that's why there's a statue there. It's not because we should have a statue of him. It's because he had a statue made of him. Just take it down. We don't need to remember this dude every time you walk past this area or whatever. Like,
And like, yeah,
yeah,
one of
people
like
that
the yeah one
good.
oh sorry, but like from like the original long post like I had sent, like one of the things was like the woman was just like, oh my god, they're putting him in storage, and she put storage in quotation marks, and she's like, whatever that means, and I'm just like, like hello. I'm just like,
Whatever
it
that
just means
means.
store, because that's the thing. Either it's not like we're not destroying the statue or anything. I think it's just been put into like an old like CXC building, and it's going
Yeah,
to be
because you
moved
don't need
into the
to
Barbados
see
Museum.
him.
Yeah, it's going to be put into the museum because it's, as people said, it's historic, and historic things go in museums. It's not like it's being destroyed or dismantled or anything. We're still keeping it because we're keeping, the memories of it. We're just not putting it in the center of an area that is named after the national heroes who have helped Barbados to get where it is today. You feel me?
I wouldn't mind if they just, melted it down, made some gold chains or something, bro.
Yes, sir. Drip for the youth.
Yes, sir.
It's not even made
Redistribute
of
the wealth.
gold.
What's it made of?
Yeah, yeah. I think like from what
If
I
it was a
heard,
gold
actually,
statue, that
like
would be kind of insane.
yeah.
That would have been some big boy resources going into that
Yeah.
right there.
I think actually from what I heard, because I read a few articles on this like earlier in the week to
Oh my
prepare for
god.
this, but like from one of I just as in I literally just like picked up the newspaper from like the day after it got taken down and read it. But like one of the things, apparently there was like a cache of like gold coins and shit that was found underneath there. That I guess
Yo,
they'd
coffee
buried under the statue
crazy.
for ages.
Ali, it seems you knew you was talking about.
Yo, call
My
me
bad.
Yeah.
crazy.
So like yeah, and like I also remember like apparently like, oh wait no, I think like the guy I had mentioned before who was like, oh like horrible things are gonna befall Barbados or whatever. I
This
think
is a
like
bad omen.
his logic was that back in the day like they had moved, well, they had rotated the statue like a few degrees because like I think it was that it used to be facing one way and then they changed it so it was facing like a treasury building or something. And I think like his logic was
Scaring
that,
on our money.
yeah, and like his logic was that okay, they did that, they spent like all this money to move it, and then after they spent this money to move it, Barbados economy went like in like a downfall. And I'm just like, the two are not correlated.
You know,
Barbados, yeah.
shut your.
I mean, Barbados did kind of have a shitty government for like 10 years that maybe didn't help
Nah,
that.
that
But
seems
sure,
unrelated.
keep. Yeah, no, it's definitely because we, turned the statue around.
Yeah, nah, for real. I
Yeah.
don't
But
know why.
yeah. Jonathan, what's your take on this?
Well, see, Trinidad had like a similar conversation. I believe it was earlier this year. Oh, he bought left. Whoops. Kelly, you reach back?
I mean, Kelly?
She on that one.
Yes, hello.
Kelly's here.
Welcome back, Kelly.
Hi,
So,
Kelly.
Hi,
the
thank
advent
you.
of
Right, so wait, tell us how you doing on the KMB.
Just now.
Kelly. That doesn't bode well.
It's any podcast channel, you just have to scroll up a little bit.
Podcast channel. Okay. Oh, 2.
Oh boy,
Oh, God.
you're in a horrible mood. What the hell, Kelly?
Yes.
But yeah,
Technically speaking, Kelly is every number on the KMB because they're all
That
there.
is true.
it is
Yeah.
the Kelly mood board, so yeah.
True.
Lachlan,
So
you might
true.
have figured some out, bro.
What was that?
You might have
Yeah,
figured
what?
some out. But yeah, for context, Kelly,
I
we were
connected
talking
it.
about some statue of a slave owner was getting taken on in Barbados.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, before I noticed that he came back, was that yeah, Trinidad had a similar issue where we had the statue of Christopher Columbus, and there's a lot of talk if we should
Oh,
take that
gosh.
down.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But a tropical storm did the job for us. Like the statue got, I think it was decapitated.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
gosh.
I'm gonna look it up. Hold on. I can't remember what happened to
The
it.
Caribbean itself was like, okay, let me give out the answer.
Yeah.
But there's the
Yeah,
Oh, it's taking a bit too
statue
long.
in where it is? I think it's Independence Square.
They realized that people were hesitating, so they were like, let me fix that up here.
Yeah.
Nah,
Because
something
people were like,
for
yeah, it's gonna, yeah. Because like with the Nelson statue, people were like, yeah, it's gonna take like $10,000, and then like everyone in my timeline was just like, we'll throw it into the wharf for free. Like, we'll just like the wharf
We'll
is like
make a
right there.
day
So
of
people were
it.
just like, yeah, we'll just like go, we'll take it down, and we'll just throw it into the wharf. You know, like
Yeah.
a lot of people wanted to like do that, but then everyone was just like, yeah, no, just like put it in the museum, and people are still pressed.
Okay, yeah, what happened
Yeah.
was the tropical storm cut off the statue's hands.
Oh gosh.
I don't know how, but it also got defaced. So yeah. Rest in hell,
Yeah.
Columbus.
But
Sir.
why does America still have a day dedicated to him? I do not understand.
Nobody
Because
knows.
it's America.
That's fair.
America's a
And
wacky
they have
place, man.
the systems of oppression a lot more
Systematic.
accepted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because at least like in Barbados, there's the main demographic and such of people that already would be opposed to having that there anyway.
You would
That's
think so,
that
to be
for the most
honest.
part. Like
Yeah.
the demographics there would lean more towards that. In America, the demographics would not lean more towards. So it's like you have to put in a bit more to get something like
Yeah.
Columbus Day.
Yeah.
I mean, there was still like deeper conversations about it because like, as much as Barbados still has like a very deeply colonialized mindset. So even though we are very largely like black population, there's still of course a lot of people who have like varying degrees like of like concerns about it. I don't know. It's just dumb. People are dumb sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, dude.
Yes, sir.
So true.
Yeah. Kelly, what are your thoughts on taking down statues?
Yes.
Well said.
Yes, sir.
Kelly
Well
has
said.
spoken. As we've already established, Kelly is 9 people, so clearly
Yes.
the
An
council has spoken.
overwhelming vote.
Yes, sir.
Alright, you ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In conclusion, fuck statues, unless they're of cool people.
Which is
But
like
he
all
wasn't cool,
okay,
so
I was
move
gonna
on.
ask like all statues, bro.
Not all of them. Actually,
Didn't
there's
let
some
him
statues that are pretty
finish.
cool.
You were
Like the
jumping, my
Buddha
boy.
statues are cool. Buddha's probably a cool
There's
guy.
some like cool statues out there. I can't
Yeah.
name any right now. But they exist. Oh, it is the Lord Kitchener one by
Just
Hilton.
trust.
There's probably
Lord
more.
Kitchener?
Yeah, he's a
There's a
Corpso
Busta
named.
statue that, yeah. We have like a Busta statue that like got us noticed once, and like Busta's basically one of our national heroes who was like a freed slave. Not like a freed slave. He started a revolt that did not go well. I had heard many people who study history tell me that he should not be a national hero, but that's a debate I am not qualified to speak on.
Not
But
enough
yeah, and
information
it's
at
like
this current time.
yeah, it's like a nice, I don't know, it's like a nice juxtaposition because like I remember like there was a while a couple of years back when like a guy basically came to Barbados and was like commenting on it because it's like literally like the statue we have of him is just like a picture of like a guy with like chains who like the chains have been broken, and it's like a really nice image to have as like an homage to like our ancestors and whatnot. A guy that highly endorsed the slave trade was not one of those nice images to have, and now he's gone.
Nice.
Sir,
Yes,
Right.
people
sir.
annoy me the most are the ones who are like who genuinely say that they want to keep these statues there because of like the historical significance of them.
Yeah, no.
Because like
Yeah.
when people say that and they're not being genuine, they're annoying for different reasons. People that genuinely are saying it annoy me the most because it's like that when we remove that statue, we don't like blot out the person from the history books, right? Like you can still
Yeah.
learn about them and the impact that they had. We just don't
And
want a statue of them.
that's like one of like the big things that came up too, because a lot of people were just like, oh yeah, you can take the statue down, but it won't erase history. Like it won't like change anything. And I'm like, no, it won't erase history.
Yes, we
But
know
like,
it would.
yeah, but like at the same time, we won't be glorifying a history that was based on like mistreatment and like horrible, horrible things. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah. Now we move on.
Yeah. All right. So we all good to move on, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Okay. So like the biggest topic that I wanted to talk about for the past week, and it's something I think that we all are very invested in. Well, maybe not Lachlan because he doesn't live in this country.
I do not know.
Yeah.
Shaking my head. Walking around.
Everybody
You
except
don't need
Lachlan.
them right now.
But it has, a lot of potential repercussions for not just us, but people that we know. And
Mhm.
basically, the Ministry of Education announced that they were making changes to the way opportunities to tertiary education exist in Trinidad. And there was some like very alarmed reactions at first. And the government they changed a lot. And I want to go through it like bit by bit. Because I wanted to talk about this last Saturday, but we didn't have an episode last Saturday. So I've been like holding it up, holding it in just until now.
Yes.
So
Until now.
yeah. So I guess we'll just go through bit by bit. Right? Like the very first thing that we all saw was like a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure how many weeks ago. They just announced at I think it was a budget hearing, I'm not sure. But they announced that there are gonna be cuts to gate. And in case you are part of that target Barbados demographic and you don't know what gate is, basically
Thank you.
gate is a system that was implemented by the late Mr. Patrick Manning, former Prime Minister.
Big up Patrick Manning.
I forgot what GATE stands for. I think it's Government Assisted Tertiary Education. I could be wrong.
That makes sense.
Sounds incorrect,
It good enough. Let's just pretend.
Yeah, it's accurate.
Basically, what is that the government says we will give you money to go to school, specifically tertiary education. Once you graduate, you come work for us. What this means is that for the majority of the population, tertiary education is suddenly accessible. Now, with Prime Minister Rowley, when he came into office, he made some changes to the GATE program. He said the current way that it's set up is not effective. So what they did was that they implemented means testing. Before you would just apply to GATE and you get accepted and it'd give you money to fund the entire degree. Now it's you do a means test. Depending on how you do in the means test, that determines how much money you get from the government. Did somebody leave?
So it's basically like the Barbados, it's basically like the scholarship system you guys have then.
Scholarships is different. You have to get the scholarships too. It's a lot to get through.
But like in terms of like you have to like perform to a certain extent in a given assessment, and then you have to work for a while in the university, and then you have to come back and work in the country for X amount of time.
Yes, but the thing with GATE is that it's specifically local, right? And also, you don't have to earn GATE. You just have to keep your GPA up.
Okay, and this is
Like you just
specific for
apply to GATE
Augusta,
and you
isn't
get accepted, and like that's it. With scholarships, you have to actually win a scholarship. But yeah, they implemented the means test. And what it meant is like if your household income was above a certain threshold, you get partial funding. If it's below a certain one, you get full funding. So for a while, what it was is I can't remember the exact numbers, but you could qualify for 0, 50, or 100% of funding. If you had too much household income, you basically, they're not gonna fund a degree. We just implemented like, by need basis into GATE, right?
Right.
So for example, when I was in UE, when I applied, I qualified for 50% income, so they were paying for half of my degree for the one semester I was there for. All right. Now,
Yes, sir.
first big change was, that they announced this month. They're changing GATE so that it will no longer fund postgraduate. Before it was undergraduate and postgraduate, now it's no longer postgraduate. Secondly, they're only funding, I believe it's one undergraduate program. Before, well, let me find the specifics, but it was like before they would let you do another. So like if you graduated from one undergraduate program with GATE, you could go back and apply for another one and do it with GATE or something like that. With immediate effect, funding undergraduate program will be provided for no more than one program up to the undergraduate level. Right, so you just do one undergraduate degree, and that's it. That's all GATE is like carrying you so far. Like that off the bat, right? Like I think not funding multiple undergraduate degrees is a good change. I do not feel the same way about not funding postgraduate. What do you guys think?
I mean, I can understand why. Is this meant to be for like a monetary thing for like Trinidad's economy, or is this just
Yeah,
like
the
what?
intent here is to like save money.
Yeah, because like I can understand. I think the idea is that like once someone gets to the idea of like a post grad degree, yes, obviously like those are still expensive as well, but like master's degrees and whatnot do tend to take less time from what I know.
They're also
I will admit I'm not
incredibly
like
expensive though.
that is true, yeah. But like I don't know. I guess if you're doing it strictly from like the standpoint of you know what is like the demographic of people who would like say use not the demographic but like do you know like the numbers of people who would actually like, go on to like pursue the postgrad education with GATE?
I've not looked up the statistics, but I do know this, right? The job market is changing in ways where postgraduate education is becoming more and more demanded. That is what like the
Oh
job market is
well,
demanding. It's like higher postgraduate education, which is why I'm like, yeah, this might not be the best change.
was there a possibility then that basically this would then create less postgraduate education, which could push that back, or well then again because you
It's
already have
definitely gonna
enough
like,
people.
reduce the level of access that the average citizen here has to postgraduate education.
Yeah, and then also of course the fact that like you already have people who've gotten postgraduate education through the system, so now it's going to be a while until like the effects of this are felt.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I can understand like what you're thinking. I can understand. Yeah, I can definitely agree that that's not a good thing given how things are. I guess from what you told me,
Yeah.
but
What
like
do
at
you
the
think?
same time, like
Oh wait, no, yeah, you
yeah,
continue, Lachlan, my bad.
no, yeah, it's just like at the same time, like if it was like a necessity to cut back on the system, I probably would have like made a similar call. It's just that again, the fallout. Like I think there's always going to be losers in like a scenario like this, but I think at the very least, like what the way I would look at it is, at least you're still getting people with their undergraduate degrees. You're still getting a population that has a higher education level than another population that would have like struggle like problems accessing university education. Because I know like we kind of have like like a similar like thing like a couple of years back when Mia got elected and basically made like KFL like free for like Asian students.
Right.
And like yeah, and like especially as like I mainly like I'm basing this on like my upper six economics and Caribbean studies knowledge, but like the idea in question I'm guessing is this like you're gonna have a more highly educated population. And a more highly educated population is better for development on a whole. The problem that you're bringing up, which does make a lot of sense, is of course the fact that that allowance for higher education went even higher than just the undergraduate level. And
Right.
then what that basically means is that you guys are now taking a step back, which will indeed slow down development. And of course, since you're taking a step back, you're now taking away opportunities from people who had them before.
Yeah.
So, like, in general, yes, it's like, it is definitely not a great thing to be happening, but at the same time, it's like, at the very least, you're still getting like that baseline, like,
You're still getting to undergraduate level.
education level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the very least, we still have undergraduate level. Like, I think that's
Yeah, it's like,
great that they didn't change that.
yeah, like, they didn't cut the program completely, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, they're still trying their best to keep it implemented, but I think, like, in terms of like managing a program like this, because, like, again, Trinidad's got a big population, right? Especially compared to, like, you know, us, we only have like 250,000 people. You guys have like what, over a million? 1.3, I think, is the last time I saw.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so like, it's understandable that like they would maybe want to cut back, because if you have like all like a population of this many all kind of pursuing like both undergraduate and higher education at once, it's kind of gonna cost a lot of money. Especially when did you say GATE was first implemented?
It was a while ago. It would have been
Oh, okay.
mid 2000s, I believe.
Well, like, I don't know, I can't fully speak to that. I just thought, like, yeah, I can definitely see why this would be like
Yeah.
an expensive program to uphold, and I can definitely understand the want to cut back on it. Personally, like, as much like I said, this is probably how I would do it if I was in the position. I just do acknowledge the fact that it is not like a great thing for the people of Trinidad.
Meet, what do you think?
Basically the same thing as Lachlan, to be honest. It's like, yeah, it's not ideal, but if you are going to cut anything or try to reduce costs in any way, that's the way that I think
It's not
I
like
would
a terrible place to
approach it.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's like
The core of the program
for
is still there.
postgraduate education, like at the very least, with the fact that it's postgraduate, but they're still supporting undergraduate, there's still that expectation. I remember, like, when I talked to my mom about doing a postgraduate when I finished thing, it's like there's some level of expectation that you can do it like part time and have a job to support you through it and help you with that with paying for it to begin with. There's that expectation in the first place because get used to cover postgraduate. It's like 50% even if you have like the full means
Right.
percentage, right? So it's like it's more difficult to cover that cost, but you still had to, at least that's somewhere where people had to cover some of the costs already as is. So it's less drastic of a change than if they were to just be like, oh yeah, undergraduate, we can't fund that for you guys anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some things I want to add on, right? Because, like, at least, like, the people who enrolled right now in postgraduate, they're still getting funding through 2021, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then, I was gonna say, like, I don't agree. Like, if the government is trying to save money, I don't think I could, like, necessarily support, taking that money from education, right? Like, just
Mhm.
on the surface, you know, I feel like
I
there are
agree.
other ways to take, to save money. Education is, like, I don't think that's the best place to start if you look at save money.
Because
Also,
in terms of like increasing the quality of lives of the well-being, I feel like education is probably the most
yeah,
important thing you provide.
it
Yeah.
feels like a weird place to start. We'll see if there are other changes down the line. Also, the government and UE, they also have agreements to, like, supply funding for postgraduate students in, like, certain positions, right? So it's not like funding is completely inaccessible, because you could still, like, get funding that way. That's something universities all over the world do. They just get money from the government in order to do stuff like that. So it isn't completely inaccessible. It's just a lot harder now. And then,
Mhm.
like, probably where this change is going to be felt the most are fields where postgraduate education is, like, directly needed. Because,
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
some, like, postgraduate is incentivized by, it's just an extra step in education. Specialization, like, helps you go further in your desired field. But for some fields, you have to be a postgraduate. So that's fields like med and law. There are probably others, but like those are the two that stood out. Is like, people who aspire to do med, like, yeah, maybe you'll get through for undergrad, but after, that's a whole different story.
Mhm.
So, yeah, specifically, like, those two fields and others like them, it might be like you could see like a lot of adverse effects there specifically.
Mhm. I
But
do feel like there are too many people that that try
yeah,
to
there are definitely a lot of people
go
who are
into
thrown in
med
there.
in the first place,
Yeah,
but like kneecapping them when they're like already in like university and stuff like that is kind of not
yeah, the people who
ideal.
are enrolled in med and law, like right now, suddenly have a lot of thinking to do.
Yeah, that in high school that were on that trajectory, and I was like, okay,
They
is
can
it
afford,
worth it?
yeah, they can afford to make these decisions
Because
now.
there's the scholarship thing on like the Cape level, and then uh combined with what's going on here, so it's like, okay, well,
Yeah, suddenly I don't want to do
now
med anymore.
you gotta diversify. You want to aim for things that don't necessitate postgraduate education or that have less of an emphasis on the need to have it,
Yeah,
as well as just diversifying from the sciences in general.
Kelly, do you have anything?
No, not really.
Okay, okay,
I just think that I don't find if you're cutting budgets, I think that education should be one of the last things to go.
right. I agree. Like education, health, welfare. Like that's
Yeah,
something you probably shouldn't
that
look at
should be
touching
some
first.
of the last things to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's just felt like a weird place to start cutting costs.
Yeah, that would just, as Lachlan said, hinder progress of the entire country, just for anything in the future.
Yeah. I assume that like the way Gates is set up, like right now, that'll stay for a while though, so we probably don't have to worry about undergraduate going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Next like thing that they changed was like I mentioned earlier how, you know, the early government implemented mean testing, and well, they revised it now, and yeah, it changed to like basically add more of these income brackets. So instead of like three, it's now like five different income brackets. No,
Mhm.
I have the numbers here, but it's like numbers are boring.
You ain't lying.
Yeah, it's basically like you get either 100% funding, 75% funding, or 50% funding. I think that'll actually help more people in theory.
I
The
mean
like
that. Wait, say that again. The is the 100%, 75%, 50%, and it was already set up that way.
it was 150-0, now it's 175-50.
I thought it was already set up that way. I'm
No,
pretty
no,
sure
like they just
the
introduced it for
75 was
this.
already a thing.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could just be wrong about that, but
No, because I remember like specifically when I applied, it was like 150-0. So if it changed between now and then I might have missed it.
because what I thought it was is that the lowest you would get if you qualify, like in terms of your education, was 50. Like it was 100, then 75, then 50. Like could be wrong about that. And I used to
And
be like, if you have enough, if you do a means test and you have an exorbitant amount of money, you should get 0% coverage. You can cover yourself. If you have a large amount of money and a large amount of income, it should have a means bracket that is at least lower than 50%.
yeah,
So
it was
there
like
being one now is
if you
good.
could just forego the mean test and you get 0% or something. Like if
I'm
you could
pretty sure
just
it was that if you skip the means test, then you got 50%.
yeah.
It's like, yeah. That's just my contempt for the wealthy show.
Yeah. But
You know me.
basically, yeah, the means test and change isn't that big of a deal. I don't think it's gonna affect that many people. It's not the biggest problem. It's just, looking into more effective ways of spending the money. So that specifically isn't that bad.
Yeah. Anybody that's gonna get assigned 0% coverage didn't need coverage.
Yeah, basically. And there are lots of people like that.
Mm.
There are lots of financial barriers to education. But yeah. Next up is like the biggest thing that like caused, some of the most shockwaves was basically how the government is handling scholarships now. We'll preface this by
Yep.
explaining how they used to work. Kelly, what was the number of like scholarships that they gave out every year? It was like what, 400?
I think it was 400, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's like 400. Every year the government would give like 400 scholarships out, was 200 open, 200 additional. Additional meant anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, but if you go in out in the world, you have to pay the difference. And open scholarship was just anywhere in the world, no asterisks. And they would pay that tuition for you and also give you some extra money as well for like spending and stuff. And then after you graduate, you come back to Trinidad from wherever you were, and you come back and work it up. You work off the debt or you pay it back. That's the agreement. Basically, what the government did is like they basically cut down the number of scholarships that they're giving out by 300, but they also introduced this other system at the same time called national bursaries, which is completely new. I'll talk about that secondly. But the scholarships specifically, what they did is not only did they cut down the number, they also changed how they're being awarded. And that is causing a lot of panic in schools right now for a lot of reasons. I think a lot of the reasons that this panic exists is because of the issues endemic to the school system, not necessarily the fault of the government or CXC. It's just how the schools set themselves up, and now the schools are paying for their consequence. I mean, paying for these actions. These are the consequences of the actions, whatever. So, yeah, the way it happened is they take the existing scholarship groups to qualify for a scholarship. Once you're doing 2 key subjects in that group, you are eligible to win that. If your grades are high enough within those subjects, you would win a scholarship. But you are not guaranteed one. So even if you make those grades, there's no guarantee that they will just give you a scholarship. So, yeah, it used to be, not discriminating between fields. But now it's, we are only given a certain amount for a given field. This is kind of a complex issue.
Pretty huge.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
So right away, we're talking about how like prestige schools are set up in Trinidad. So you have, these desirable schools in Trinidad called prestige schools. Basically, these are schools with like reputation and history for being, the home of like all the button academics. They win the most scholarships. You want to go here and maximize your chances. They have the best teachers. I believe myself. Yeah, me and Kelly all went to prestige schools. I don't know if like Lachlan has like the same kind of stigma around schools like that. Lachlan.
Lucky Land. This music.
Yeah, he's AFK.
You can do that.
So yeah, we all went to schools like those because as a youth, you don't know any better. Or is typing. But yeah,
We didn't exactly choose what schools we went to. Our parents did. And our parents are gonna go, okay, these are the schools where you get an advantage. Why would I send my child anywhere else if they have the grades together?
yeah. It's not like America where you go to the schools that are like, nearby. It's like you get to choose. That's how I ended up going to school that was like nowhere near my house.
Bravo.
Hi, sorry. As you guys can hear this music, yeah, you guys can hear this music in the background, so I kind of
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, sorry. What was I'll answer like in the text, and you guys like read it out. But like, what was the
Yeah,
question again?
just type that, bro.
I just type out the question while I talk.
Thank you.
Loves all of you.
High quality Lachlan content.
I'm gonna just type out real quick.
He could hear you. I mean, you could say it. He would type his response.
Well, so I can just like focus on like continuing my train of thought, right? So yeah, we had these schools, and you would go to them, and you'd be like, okay, all that matters is winning a scholarship. This is what you're here for. Like this is something that they try to ingrain in you in the school. Not necessarily your parents, but you'd have a lot of parents who think the same way. It isn't exactly like conducive to a helpful mindset. Because what happens is you have these schools setting extremely unrealistic expectations on these kids. They don't understand that like minority of students win a scholarship. Even if the majority in a year group in a given school wins it, that's still a minority in terms of the general population of Trinidad. That's something that parents do not understand or students do. Like I spent a lot of time like trying to pry myself away from that mindset because my parents and the teachers were like, yeah, he had to win a scholarship. This is all that matters. Work hard. And I was just like so over it. I was like, fuck that. I don't care. I just want to pass.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Lachlan is also saying
Like
that
a hoop
Barbados
up.
has stuff like that. So yeah, I was saying. Basically, these schools do not do a good job of explaining how these opportunities work to kids, and they spend so much time trying to make you think that anything that isn't a scholarship is a bad option, which just is not true. But they don't care because they care about their own results. They know that they will do well in terms of their careers if their classes win a bunch of scholarships. Which is why, I had teachers like my shitty Caribbean study teacher who absolutely did not care about her class. But at the end of the day, if the class does well, then she gets to keep teaching that class and potentially, down the line gets considered for a head teacher role and will make more money that way. So we had, the biology teacher who shall not be named, who also thought like that.
Who shall not be named?
She
Tell
decided
again.
to build a reputation around, being very successful with scholarships. So she could promote her lessons class. She would say, yeah, this boy who won the President's Medal, he used to come sit in front of my lessons class every week. Now he's a President's Medal winner. He was an advertising tactic for her. And he was just like so thankful at times. Like, yeah, she taught me everything I knew. I was like, bro, anybody could have taught you that. She just sat down and read the textbook out to you. So yeah, basically, it was just all these teachers competing against each other, trying to see like who can get the most money by like, promoting themselves with these scholarships. So yeah. So you can see
I
that
have my own criticisms of the lesson system in general, but that's not what this is about.
you can go ahead, dog. Like we here for a while to talk about this. You could go ahead.
We had to just flame like
Because it's
even
very
though
much a problem.
prestige schools are set up like, oh, this is where you get teachers that will teach your kids and like, give them the best educational experience. The reason that kids go into prestigious schools do well is not because in school they are taught well. It's because they go to lessons that the teachers that are in their schools teach. The whole strategy, like you said, of like she set up this reputation of being somebody who uh, produces students that get scholarships. So then there's this whole reputation about the school, but then all of these students, most of the things that they're going to learn isn't inside of school. It is inside of these lessons that they're taking that the school incentivizes because they don't really care about teaching during school time nearly as much as they should.
Essentially, like we had teachers inside the class promoting their outside business. It was a complete conflict of interest. It is unacceptable at any level of the education system, but for some reason it is okay. What's worse is that
It's very annoying to me.
what's worse is that
Because
they don't pay
I
taxes on this income.
never went to lessons,
This
and it's like the amount that you lose out from these teachers if you don't go to their lessons is insane. They don't teach there are teachers that obviously teach their classes well and like trying to teach in the classroom setting primarily. But then the ones that aren't like that, which is a lot of them, it's very transparent. Like they make no effort to hide it because it's not like it's some secret. It's just like you come to school here because this is the prestigious school, and then you go to my lessons, and that's when I read the textbook to you, but it's more paying more attention this time.
And also past papers. They were just
Yeah.
like do like this extreme repetition of all these past papers. It's just like do them over and over and over again. Like you're bound to pick up some from that.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
That's one of the issues I have as well, is that like, education system at that level, you're not really learning the subject, you're learning how to pass the exam
yeah.
primarily.
So,
And that is really, I think, part of the thing that like really shows that to me is how many people get like ones and distinctions in Spanish and do not know Spanish to any
yeah,
degree.
I cannot
They
fucking
know how
speak
to write
Spanish, but
a
I have a
letter
one in
in
Spanish.
Spanish
Yeah.
in the exact format that is required for the exam, and that's it.
You literally just learn a template and then like fill in the gaps with whatever like basic vocabulary you know. And like, yep, good enough. You pass. Like Spanish is probably like the biggest evidence that, you know, the C-sex system is just not doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah. It's just not working out.
So yeah, where were we? Kind of got off on a tangent.
I just needed to rant about that for a
Yeah,
second.
no, it's definitely
It's
agreed.
so annoying.
It's a huge conflict of interest, but for some reason it's allowed. So yeah, so just to believe we with, you know, right.
These shifts in
The
the
teachers
scholarship
like in school
allocation and all.
do like their best to like tell you, yeah, UE is bad, don't go to UE, you want to win a scholarship and go abroad. And it's such a dangerous mindset because you have kids like right now who are acting this way to this news. They're like, whoa, you know, my life is over. I'm not going to win a scholarship. That means I'm not going to be able to attend university. And that's just not true.
It plainly speaking just isn't. Like they act as if your options are go to some far off university and learn things there, or nothing. That's the only option that you have. They act like that's how it works. But so many people will go to our local universities and they will get their education there, and it will be completely fine. And they will learn everything that they need to learn and get the opportunities that they need without having to go across the entire world.
And also, it's just
Like
like,
you
it's not
don't
just
need a
UE.
scholarship.
There's like UE, Mount Hope, UTT, SPCS. Well, I know about SPCS. SPCS kind of shaky.
There's some conflicting tales
Yeah.
about SVC. Let's leave that one off the off the
UTT,
list.
and like Arthur Lockjack, right?
Mhm.
Like all of those are good options. But
Yeah.
it's just like they'll never tell you about them. If they are your best interests at all, they probably would, but they don't. So
Because you can't not understand that when you are teaching classes at different levels with like 30 people in each class, you have all these students. All of them are going to finish this schooling and want to go on to higher education. And then there are also all of the other schools. You have to know that the majority of the people you're teaching are not going to get a scholarship and go off to some foreign university. They're going to either have to go to university here or not at all. So acting as if the ones here are not an option, or if you don't get a scholarship, it's over, is so detrimental to those students.
yeah. But like specifically with like the
BTA.
subject groupings now, right? These subject groupings, you know, a lot of people were saying, well, there are so many like people who are in like natural sciences and math, right? Like these fields are overpopulated, so isn't like equally distributed any scholarships across fields, you know, it's not gonna be an issue. And to that I say, how do you not see that that also isn't already an existing problem with the school system?
Yeah. The reason that
The
this
school
change
has like
is
funneled
massive
you.
is because these schools weren't doing what they need to do in the
Yeah.
first place, which is encouraging people to like study things that they are interested in and things that they're good at, rather than just, hey, go do natural sciences or maths or pack up.
Yeah.
That's the option.
Like, let me
There's
talk
like
about me
literally
school
a
specifically,
stigma
right?
against doing business in some of these classes, in some of these schools, like doing business subjects.
Yeah.
When business subjects are so like universally useful to you.
Yeah. They're always an asset to have. Science subjects are not.
Yeah, literally any field that you go into, having business knowledge will be useful to you.
And like for our school specifically, right? In Form 1, we did what was it? It was just regular math is what they called it.
Mhm.
Math, English, biology, physics, chemistry, music, Spanish, and I think there was some more.
I don't think we started IT until Form 2.
We did not start IT for Form 2. We had geography and history. I think like that was necessary, right? Like I think like the early
Mhm.
history that you do between Form 1 and 3 was actually necessary.
Yeah.
We did not do literature. We did not do business until Form 3. From
Yeah.
Form
Did 1 year of introduction to business.
For the first 3 years, you would do physics, chemistry, biology. You do introduction to business for 1 year. So right away, you could see
That's
how
such a
they're setting it
clear
up.
message.
Yeah. If you had like any interest in business at all, they were trying to stomp it out of you.
Like
And
they really don't want to hear it.
like they didn't even like, like they expanded the choices to like give you the options of, econ, accounting, management to business. You never experienced those subjects before until you just blindly decided to choose them. You had no prior knowledge of them. People are
Yeah.
incentivized to choose physics, chem, biology, even if they are unsuited to it, because all they knew for those first 3 years was physics, chemistry, biology.
And this is where I return.
So naturally, yeah, welcome back, Lachlan. Naturally, more
Thank you.
people are going to pick physics, chemistry, and biology. And they are conflating that with like genuine interest for the subject. And it's like, you do not have genuine interest for the subject. This is just all that you know. So you have chosen it and you are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yeah. Before we move on with this, because I do have some kind of things to talk about that too, at least from a Bayesian perspective.
Go ahead.
But like a few things I did want to clarify because people aren't paying attention to the text I write. But yeah, in terms of prestige schools, yeah, because like I think some of the things that you said I can relate to, some of them not necessarily. Like in terms of prestige schools, the way that works in Barbados is that do you guys have an exam that decides what secondary schools you go to?
Yes.
Yeah.
We should talk
Yeah.
about that too. If you have time at the end, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So basically, like because like that is like so heavy, like the results of that, kind of like determine the rankings of schools in Barbados in a way. So like the two schools that are ranked at the top are the school that Tia and I went to. So like Tia Chelsea, you don't know Chelsea, but the school
I
Tia
do not
Chelsea
know
and I went
Chelsea.
to, yeah, was like one of those schools, and the other school was one that Joshua would have gone to. And
Well,
like
yeah,
generally
I
those
saw that you
schools,
agreed and you were like, yeah, we did go to schools. That's why I
yeah,
didn't like bother saying anything.
yeah, but it's not like we have like this set list of schools and like these are the schools you go to and these are the schools you don't. It's more so like those are the schools that are generally seen as being like at the top, and then there's schools underneath that. Well, like yeah, there's like schools underneath that. So there's like schools like that like are also kind of like highly ranked, but like maybe not as much. So like the school I think is directly under them. It's still a good school and it's still decent. It just doesn't get like the same level of scholarships as ours does. Because I think in terms of like actual like we have it divided by like national scholarships and national exhibitions, which I believe is just the same way you guys have open scholarships and regular scholarships.
Open and additional, yeah.
Yeah. So what was I even saying? Right, yeah. So like our school is generally known at the sixth form level. Our school is generally the ones. Our school and the same one that Joshua went to are usually the only two that have scholarships. I believe, historically speaking, there has never been a scholarship outside of those schools. And for the most part, like exhibitions will also come out. Like I think in my year, there was like 17 scholarships from my school, 10 scholarships from the other school. And then in terms of exhibitions, it was like a similar number. It was like we had like X number, and then they had like a slightly more exhibition. And then there was like one exhibition from like three other schools that were like relatively high up. I think like only two other schools that I know of have been like capable of getting them. But yeah, there's a lot more I could say about like the hierarchy of schools in Barbados, but like I feel like I would need more time to talk about all that and probably more Bayesian representation to like really be able to like talk about that fully. so I won't go fully into that right now. In terms of like, in terms of like what you're talking about now, though, in terms of like scholarships, like I can kind of see that. Like we also, I would say like I don't think our teachers were as bad in terms of like pigeonholing people into feeling that they need to get scholarships. Like I think definitely at my school that was kind of like an issue. But of course, because like scholarships in Barbados are like a lot more few and far between as opposed to Trinidad, because I know you guys handle like a lot more than we do. So I think like there are a lot more teachers who are like generally. I find a lot of the teachers that I had at least were generally more caring towards the students and were generally more like focused on getting the students to where they need to be. And I think that's generally coming from a place of knowing that like obviously not everyone's going to get a scholarship, and of course like and of course like people at other schools also aren't going to get scholarships and whatnot. So I think like because of that, there's like a lot more humility, at least I would say, or I could just be wrong because I'm only one person. I can really consolidate that.
Or I could be
The lessons,
capping.
yeah. I don't think my teachers necessarily like focus too much on like raising their own like standard for lessons, because at the end of the day, like I believe when I was like doing because like I did do lessons all throughout like sixth form, of course, and they did very much help me get my exhibition, but like right, but like it wasn't like teachers were like fully campaigning for the lessons, I would say. It was more so like because I think even when I was looking for lessons, my teachers would tell me go to a teacher that is not me. Like the teacher that taught me econ, there were like two econ teachers, and the teacher that taught me econ was the one from the other class. Because he basically told me like, yeah, if you want lessons, go to her. So like I just want to like I guess make that clarification that Barbados is kind of different in that regard, at least in terms of what I've experienced. But I can kind of highly agree with you in like the natural sciences thing. Again, we also didn't really get opportunities to do business subjects until like fourth form. I
Right.
chose to do accounting on a whim, and I still did that along with chemistry and biology. Not biology, chemistry and physics, just because like my parents will like stick with something you're familiar with. But like thankfully, I did decide that like I liked accounting just because I like math. And I did enjoy accounting up until like sixth form level, which is good. But like that kind of creates like a further problem of like another thing I'll comment on but won't fully go into is that like the discrepancies between like STEM subjects and arts and humanities subjects, which is a whole other rant, honestly, that I have saved up, but I kind of want to go on that in a different episode.
I was planning on
But
talking about it here
basically,
too.
yeah, I want to like, yeah, I've been saving up this rant, and I've been waiting for like a good time to like when I've been ready to like go on this rant.
Slapped on the
Now is the
education
time, Lachlan.
system.
Now is the time.
Nah. Because like I talked about this with Sharma. I know Sharma kind of relates. Because especially since Sharma, I guess, would know more med students.
We were
And
talking
a
to
lot of this
Sharma
rant
about it earlier, but like she can be a
Yeah.
critical thing.
Yeah. So like I think I'll wait until a time when like we plan it out. We actually planned it out because I feel like that does deviate a bit more from like just the talk of like higher education.
Yeah.
But like yeah, in general, like we have because like you guys give out scholarships based by subject, right?
Yes, based on subject grouping. So for example,
Yeah.
like my case specifically, I was math because I did pure math and applied math.
Yeah, I remember.
Kelly was natural sciences because she did I don't know what Kelly did. Kelly?
Pure math, chem, and physics.
Nice.
Thank you, Kelly.
So right, so she got through for natural sciences. Victim! You're a victim, Kelly.
Yeah. Do you
What?
guys have humanities based scholarships?
Yeah.
Yes, we do, but our school didn't have any of those subjects offered. I was pushing for
I mean-
like sociology to get offered because I wanted to do it at Keep, but then something happened with the teacher and some like internal politics, so it never happened.
Yeah. What are the requirements for that?
Oh, what humanities scholarships?
Yeah.
I do not know the exact subject groupings, but it exists.
Because I know like like with us, we don't do it by groupings. The main issue I have with like the Barbados scholarship is that it's just based on results. Like I know you guys do like your grouping going on. We just have it based on results, where it's you of course do your 4 subjects in lower 6, your 4 subjects in upper 6, and if you get 8 grade 1s in all of those subjects, you get a full scholarship. If you get, I believe it's 7 grade 1s and 1 grade 2, or 6 grade 1s and 2 grade 2s, but the 2 grade 2s are in the same subject, which is what I have, then you get an exhibition. And the main issue I have with that, of course, is that like in terms of like I'll go more into this when we actually do get the time to do like the STEM students rant, but like anyone who like pays attention to like how grades are distributed, it's like generally speaking science students that tend to get like all of the grade ones and like all the proper grades. And then business students are like kind of in between there. And then in the bottom is like humanities students who I hardly know any humanities students have like grade ones. I know one person who was like one of the only people in the region to get I think a one in sociology. And on top of that, like history, you never really see people getting like history. I think the most common grade is like a grade 3. There's also things like technical drawing where like people will generally like not get high grades. Like I have a friend who was on the merit list and she had a good grade too. So at least in terms of us, I think that we have like an imbalance that's really just garnered towards like catering to
I
science
think that's because
students.
of CXC. But I'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah,
I think that's
that
'cause
is more of a
CXC.
CSC issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like at the very least, in terms of like that's kind of just how it is. But at the very least, like Barbie, I think UE KFL is at least known as like the humanities KFL kind of for that reason, because at the very least they kind of have to cover for that kind of thing. But like that's just my take on it.
Nice. But yeah, like I think that's due to like how the exams are structured.
Yeah.
Like STEM subjects, they rarely test analytical skills. This is not for like not even like the essay questions in biology. I remember you just have to like memorize the teaching textbook because it can come for an exam and you have to rattle it off.
Yeah.
Whereas like the other subjects you'd have to like actually put in analysis work, and that's something that isn't a skill taught in high school.
Yeah, because like that's the whole thing with like science subjects, like read and regurgitate.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
humanities subjects are like you kind of have to like interpret things on your own, and then everyone else's interpretation could be wrong. You feel me? Actually, you know what? I might. Do you want me to just go on this? Actually, no. I'll go on this round a different day. I don't know if I have
Man,
energy.
can't go on the round for Lachlan.
I really just.
You just
Because
have to be
I want
careful,
no,
like
main-
not against DMCA, please. I don't have money to pay like copyright lawyers.
Yeah,
For.
I will. Yeah, I think just because like I want to do this mainly when Sharma's here, just because I know like Sharma.
Yeah, I want Sharma to be here to flame like the concept of med student.
Because I have given her this rant before. So
we have flamed
like,
med students
like,
so many times, bro. Alright,
Yeah, but I need to hear Sharma flame the concept of a med student.
No, she goes hard.
Yeah, she have problems with these.
Stethoscope ground bazaar with her, bro.
Yeah, but like in the end of the day, like I think our issue is just because of like how like skewed like it is. Like it's only really like the science students that end up like getting like being able to like, go to like the overseas universities and stuff as a result. So you see a lot less like humanities students able to like go abroad and like, get that like higher education.
Nice.
Anyway, back to you.
Yeah. Where were we? Alright, I want to talk about the concept of CAPE. First and foremost, specifically in Trinidad, CAPE is decided by CXC. Scholarships are decided by the government. Not enough people understand this distinction.
Oh gosh.
What happens is, like, we saw people complaining, it's like, hey, I already picked my subjects. You can't change these scholarships. If you pick in subjects, that is something that you are engaging with CXC. That is your agreement with CXC. You're agreeing to write a CXC exam. A regional body. Not a Trinidad and Tobago government body. A regional body. Scholarships are decided by the Trinidad and Tobago government. Not the same thing. CXC does not care what you pick. They just want you to write their exams. Trinidad and Tobago government doesn't care who gets their scholarships. Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago only care about these students who will like do well enough to win scholarships. This move was clearly a move to diversify, the students that we are producing. Because clearly, the way the school system is set up, it is geared towards the science and math subjects. For no, real good reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not something that is productive or helpful. We need, more students in these other fields. Because clearly, funding everybody into STEM fields does not work. Look at Petrotrin. Suddenly, all the petroleum engineers are out of work. All these kids who went to UE to do, this specific branch of engineering just see their future job close down, and suddenly they're screwed. We don't want more of that. This is, a step in preventing things like that from happening in the future. Obviously, you can't completely prevent it, but you can lessen the effects. And, this whole thing about people not understanding the distinction between CAPE and CXC, CAPE and how scholarships are awarded, that came up with, the lawsuit that someone who will not be named waged against
Some unknown party.
a guy didn't win a scholarship because he picked subjects and the subject groupings changed by the government changed how the subject groupings were, gonna work that year. So suddenly he qualified for one less scholarship. He picked subjects to qualify for two different ones. But then like they cut out like how you qualify for one, so he only qualified for one after. He didn't win a scholarship. He got upset and he sued the government and somehow he won. It was incredible to me. I remember ranting about this. But
Yeah.
basically, like, you should not be picking CAPE subjects for the sake of winning a scholarship. Do not do CAPE if your only concern is winning a scholarship. Do CAPE with with the mindset that you are learning how to bridge the gap between high school and university, because that is what CAPE is for.
Yeah, and I will like add on to that. Like one thing that does kind of remind me of something that kind of upset me because, like I said, I missed the scholarship requirements because in both my lower sixth and my upper sixth year, I got a grade 2 in econ, which I probably could have got a grade 1 if I queried, but like that's a whole other thing. Anyway, but like the main thing is like I was fine with that honestly because like I still enjoyed doing econ and like I liked learning econ. So I was really upset. I remember when I got like the initial grade 2 in econ because econ was probably one of the subjects I enjoyed the most. So even though like I got that grade 2, I was still happy enough with the grade 2 and I was still happy enough with the exhibition because I felt like I was learning information that helped me in the long run. Like it helped me in Caribbean studies for sure. And I was learning
Oh, yeah.
information I genuinely thought was like useful and helpful to me. Because like Unit 1 econ was like micro econ and that's like more my thing of like everything being interconnected. And then Unit 2 I enjoyed because like it was like more about learning about the world and it's more like learning about like imports and exports and like how
Macroecon.
Caribbean, yeah, and like how the unique Caribbean, like how unique islands in the Caribbean, and like the unique aspects of islands in the Caribbean like affect how their economies work.
Right.
And I like learning that, and then of course I applied that to Caribbean studies, and all that was fine. And then it really annoyed me that like when I didn't get the scholarship, my dad would always be like, "Oh, well maybe you should have done like environmental science because then it would have been easier for you to get a scholarship." But it's like, why does that have to be the focus though? You know, because I feel like, I mean, I think like, he did kind of mean that like harmlessly, like, oh, if you had done this, like you could have gotten a scholarship. But like at the same time, it's like I feel like that shouldn't be the most important thing, and that's kind of just a fault with like the education in general and capitalism affecting how expensive tertiary education is. But it's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna like revisit that. It's like, do not like CAPE is just, you do not understand like the gap that exists between high school and university until you actually get there. And then you realize, hey, I learned this during CAPE. This is actually helpful now. Because there's so much of that you learn during CAPE that would be helpful then.
Because like I feel like you take for granted. One thing I heard a lot during CAPE was like how people who do CAPE going to university are a lot better off than people who go to like foreign high schools because it prepares you better.
Yeah.
And then going into like university, you do get to see that, especially doing a math degree. Because something as simple as like calculus, like I did my math CXC. Sorry, that's
Okay, no, okay.
I did my math CXC in fourth form. I did additional math in fifth form, which is when I got my introduction to calculus. And then I did pure math in a gap year after. Wait, I did like applied math, which taught me a lot about statistics. And then in a year off, I took pure math, which of course taught me the basics of things like calculus and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then talking to students now who are like now doing these courses for the first time, because I did basic calculus courses last semester and I'm doing a basic stats course now. And I'll talk to like people I know who are Canadian and have spent their whole life in Canada, who are like, yes, they struggled like a lot with these things because of course the university environment is not great at teaching you information.
There's a lot of like
But like me,
self-dependence in the university environment.
yeah, exactly. But like for me, I found like I had a much easier time doing like certain courses, certain like exams because like I remember like we had our stats midterm recently and I did like not to brag, but I did really well at that. But a lot of that was because it was like simple stats information. And then like later I was talking to like my D&D group who is mostly Canadian and they were like, yeah, we struggled with that exam. And I'm like, how? And I realized it's because they just haven't covered that stuff before, which really just goes on to say like if you were doing CAPE, odds are you are still better than people who like if you have a CAPE level education, you are much better off than people who have a high school level education in the US or Canada.
Yes.
And I think that is something we kind of take for
It's
granted.
just that the job market is like, you know what, undergraduate minimum.
Yeah.
They don't value like the knowledge that you have after Cape, which sucks because Cape knowledge is actually valuable.
Yeah, it really is.
Like pure math
I
and
feel like-
applied
yeah.
math, that is enough like mathematical knowledge for the average person to take for the rest of their lives.
No, it is.
Like,
Like I'm of course learning more because like I'm doing more, but even when I look at like people that I know that are like just doing math courses, it's all stuff that we've already done.
yeah, like a chi-square test, right?
Yeah.
You could like learn that once and just do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like else you need to know about that. You just need to know how to do it. And Cape just teaches you how to do it.
Exactly. There's so much useful information that is relevant to your life from Cape, and you should not take that for granted just because you want to go to a foreign university.
Yeah, I hope that with these new changes, people like start to realize, you know, like what Cape actually means, and it isn't just scholarship or bust. You learn a lot. Please, like, take the opportunity to pick subjects that you'd actually like, you know, have an interest in. It's not just about scholarships. The chance is
exactly.
nice, but it is not a likeliness. It is not a guarantee. You're not entitled to one, and your life is not over if you do not get one.
I will say like that's definitely an attitude that I saw going forward in like I remember like the difference between like my upper six and my lower six here because I remember like in lower six, especially with a good friend of mine, he was like an anxious wreck towards the end of like lower six
So
because like
was
he was so
I.
worried.
Oh my god.
Yeah. No, everyone was extremely anxious towards the end of lower six. And I feel like there was so much like chaotic energy going on in so many people's heads. A lot of people who weren't in a bad place. Because everyone was there like suffering, thinking, oh, will I be able to get this scholarship? Will I be able to get this scholarship? I remember like one friend of mine that I was very close with at the time, he was like so freaked out like all the time. Because like he really wanted to go to an overseas school and he was so worried about the prospects of getting a scholarship. And then we did our first set of exams, and he got like the requirements. He got all grade ones. And for some strange reason, like after that year, I felt like everyone kind of like eased out and like smoothed out. Because I feel like at a certain point, I feel like that's when everyone realized they just knew their place. So it was more like everyone either like resigned to the fact that they were going to have to put the same amount of work, or just resigned themselves to the fact that they were not going to get anywhere because of that. But like at the same time, what I feel like that kind of resulted in was like a lot more people like more like being only able to like look towards their futures and like people being able to like I guess make better decisions and better plans for that kind of thing. I don't know. But like at the same time, like yeah, it still kind of sucks that like the mentality going forward was still like because there was like a time what happened to me originally was that my results got like fucked up because Cape is stupid, CXC is stupid, so they gave me the wrong econ result. So at first they gave me a 3, which meant that I was below the exhibition requirements. And then that got changed like a few days later. But my school only had the 3 on file. And then I remember like on my first day of school in upper six, they called us up to like put everyone on stage just to be like, oh yeah, these are the people that almost made the requirement, but they didn't make the requirement, and despite that, like we're still celebrating them just because they tried. And looking back on that now, that's kind of fucked up. Just to be like, yeah, you didn't get there, but like you almost did. I think they were like trying to push people to like query their grades as well. I think that was like the main purpose of that. But like yeah, in general it was like kind of weird just to be like have all the people on stage just like yeah, you almost made it, good for you. And I'm just like, oh that's nice.
That is an
I
area where I
guess.
like sympathize with like the current students too, because we saw like the massive CXC fuck ups that happened this year. We talked about those before.
Yeah. As
Like-
someone who of course had like friends who like were still like graduating at the time, it's horrible.
I've seen like people have like conditional acceptance into university. Like those offers just get rescinded because of these CAPE results, which sucks a lot. That is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I
Man,
don't think
fuck
CXC
CXC.
has like we haven't even like heard any news about the independent review or anything.
Yeah.
So that is very unfortunate. I
It's
hope
for
that
that
gets
reason
resolved
I think
soon.
for the first it's for that reason I think like for the first time in like years my school has had no scholarships.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I know a lot of people who likely would have like worked really hard and would have been counting on those who now just like can't have to like uproot their entire plans. So many people have to take like years off now to figure out their futures. It's a mess.
It's like directly derailing like people's futures, and that's something TXT has to handle, and they just haven't handled. Like, look how long ago we talked about that, and it just has not been resolved yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
In conclusion, the education system on the whole is a shit show.
We still have like one more aspect to talk about with the government changes. So does anybody have anything else to say about like the stuff we just talked about for however long before we go on to that? Kelly?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
But yeah, I mentioned a bit ago, but they also introduced the national bursary system. There's something completely new. And they reduced the number of like scholarships being awarded, but they introduced was the number 500. It's not say how many national bursaries, but I thought it was 500. I don't know where I got that number from now. But Sharma said it was 500 too. So basically,
So we were wrong together.
yeah, if you're wrong, blame Sharma. Basically, Lachlan, like, you can't like move away from the music or anything.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But yeah.
I was just looking out to see when I can get cake. Sorry, continue.
Reasonable. Nah,
I
never
missed food
apologize for
because
that.
of like I was out here, so like I had to like ask the people to like give me food from the kitchen.
Nice.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, continue.
Nourish me.
Basically, like, with the like reduced number of scholarships, but also introducing the bursaries, like the total number of like these award type things is more than before. It's just that the focus isn't on international education anymore.
Isn't that a good thing though?
You would think that's a good thing, but people don't seem to think that because of like the priority and the emphasis we have placed on further education outside of Trinidad. People see that as the gold standard, but they don't realize it's an unrealistic dream. Because even with a
Yeah.
scholarship, like both myself and Kelly can talk about this, right? It doesn't cover all the costs. You still have to foot some of these costs by yourself. You can see,
Yeah, no,
okay, yeah, what?
no, I was saying it's the same for us because like I know like Tia has a full scholarship and she still complains about how she still had like take out loans and stuff just to help her pay for like housing and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like they cover tuition and they give you some spending money. But depending on these payments is a recipe for disaster. Because they do not pay you regularly.
Yeah.
It isn't like complete financial security to like even use a scholarship. Like you still have to have money to begin with. It isn't like an instant guarantee to be able to access this. It's just a lot easier, but there's still a lot of difficulty involved. If you're depending on these monthly payments, these monthly payments are not monthly. That's just the reality.
Biannual payments, right?
They promise monthly payments and then they just don't do it. They promise, well, so far I think they've been paying my tuition. The bill gets sent to them. I hope they're paying it.
You could pay one of these days now.
But yeah, like Ellie, I think like you get paid more regularly than I do.
I honestly haven't checked for a while.
You just give it up.
When the money gets there, it'll get there.
But like I was warned, like when I first got the scholarship, I was warned, it's like, yeah, make sure you have enough money to like cover yourself for the first year. I was like, where the fuck am I gonna get money to cover like 8 months of living expenses?
Yeah, man. It's a struggle.
It was like, yeah, you basically just have to be able to cover, you have to be able to handle yourself without the scholarship in order to use the scholarship. But yeah, basically the government is putting the focus from, away from international education and more on local education. And the way the bursaries are set up, basically, is like an additional scholarship, essentially. But it also comes with means testing. So it isn't like GATE, where you just sign up and get, or like additional scholarships where you have to earn one. It's like a combination of both. So it's only being awarded to a certain handful of people. But once like there's a decent level of financial security here, once they actually pay you on time, if they pay you on time. But regardless, on paper, the system looks fine. I think that the idea of moving the attention away from international to local is better. I just like I don't like that they cut down the number of scholarships. That's all I'll say. Because they made a very harsh cut. I think you could have done both at the same time. But they're trying to save money, so they're not going to do that. What you
I mean,
guys
like I
think?
can also there's like a similar thing that happened in Barbados like a while back because they did like I don't fully remember what it was, but I know they did change scholarship requirements because they were looser to what they were before. And like in the end of the day, it does kind of I think like a big part of like our lower sixth value was that there was a rumor going around that they were going to buff up our like requirements to make it so that you have to get like X distinctions in like all 8 subjects instead of just one. I know like that had a lot of people freaked out, but like like looking back on it, like obviously like it wouldn't have been the end of the world. And like I remember like the issue I kind of had was that a lot of people were acting like it was the end of the world. But like I think it is important to like remind people that like you can still get like a perfectly good education like at home. Of course, I feel like this kind of sounds a bit hypocritical considering that both of us are like
Yeah,
speaking
no,
from the point of view of people at foreign
only one
universities.
person in this call right now. Like,
Yeah, that's a bit awkward.
Mean, what do you
So
think?
yeah, I like because
Well,
I
you,
don't
well,
feel
you
fully
finish, Lachlan.
comfortable
You
saying
finish.
this.
You finish.
No, I was just saying I don't feel fully comfortable like speaking on it as a result, but like I do think it is better to like at least remind people that there are other options instead of just putting all the focus on foreign universities.
Yeah. Mean, good.
Huh?
Nice.
I'm I've not been
Words
paying
of
attention
wisdom.
for a substantial period of time.
A week.
And
Basically, to
that's my
sum it
thoughts on
up,
the matter.
education is still accessible. Please learn what your options are if you're in a position where you have to choose. Uh, remember that this is not the end of the world. Education is still accessible. And yeah, I would I will just say like, I don't agree with cutting postgraduate spending. I think that's bad. But what are we gonna do?
What are we gonna really do,
What are we gonna
fellas?
really do? It
It is what it
sucks.
is. Yep.
But hey, at the very least we can all still say that undergraduate is still accessible. So yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. That's great. So, anybody have any closing remarks? We have been at it for an hour and a half. This
Damn,
is
look at us.
the
Go us.
longest episode yet. And we talked about
Hey.
2 whole things.
My closing remark is that the new Animal Crossing update is amazing because
It
Nintendo
is.
is doing more to increase their inclusivity, like they said they would, and I really approve of the move to include more black hairstyles because genuinely, like being able to like have a fade and have hair that looks like my regular hair is like one of the most liberating experiences I've had in that game.
You have no idea like how hyped I was when I first saw that it could make you can make your skin brown. Because like
Yeah.
I just had to be white in New Leaf the whole time and I played that game for 500 hours.
Yeah, man.
So
Like
yeah.
also reminds me of like when Pokemon like increased like the increased like skin tone
Yeah.
as well to like have like light skin and dark skin. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly, any closing remarks?
No, not really.
Nice.
Thanks, Kelly.
Meet.
Thanks, Kelly. My only closing remark is I have no closing remarks.
Why does nobody ever
Shit,
have
so
closing
meta.
remarks? Like,
What do you want me to
I
say?
have
I say
closing
everything I
remarks.
wanted to say during the actual discussion.
Yeah, I don't understand. You talk for an hour and a half. What more you want?
Closing remarks, head on.
alright.
Right
Okay.
here, boy.
I'll just say, yeah. Oh, we'd already summed it
Yeah.
up, didn't I? It just makes sense to sum it up a second time.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? This dude hit me with a summary. He's like, anyway, summarize for me. Like, what?
Yeah, just again, please learn what your options are because the people around you, I probably not telling you what they are. Alright?
Yeah.
Also, don't keep out racist statues because racist statues are not fun.
Yeah, fuck
Yes.
Columbus.
Yep.
Fuck Columbus.
Yes, sir.
I
Alright.
mean, don't actually, but yeah.
From everybody here, this has been BTA Podcast episode 15. Good night.
Sir.
Good night.
I
Good
hit my
outro.
microphone instead of hitting enter.
Nice.
Nice job.
And scene.